Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is a re recording of the lecture or introduction part of the part one to connecting to quantum consciousness Quantum Dojo class. I apologize, but for some reason, our Zoom recording didn't come out for the first part of the class, so I'm re recording it now. Unfortunately, um, sometimes that happens. I've had that happen just a couple of times in my career, but in the few years that I've used Zoom, but it happened today, so I'll re-record it. But fortunately, our the interactive part and the practice part, the meditation part, all came out just fine. So basically, this is just kind of a reiteration of the lecture part without all of the beginning um, stuff that happens the first time a group gets together on Zoom, where you all get together and say hello to each other and try to talk about how to work the platform and so forth. So, you probably won't be missing anything other than just seeing everybody else's faces, but you'll see them in the second half of this class. So, thanks for your patience, and we'll get right to the lecture. Basically, Quantum Dojo came out of a channeled message that I got in meditation over a year ago, where my guides, the star teachers, said, it's time to begin to share the information that you have on all the different types of um, developing the different types of psi gifts that I have and that we all have, but most people just aren't aware of or just don't know how to connect with. Quantum consciousness, basically, I keep saying basically, but quantum consciousness for me is what some of you would call um, the all that is, the Akashic record, the mind of God. It is the quantum universe, which is everything. It's all energy, and energy never dies. It only changes form and vibrates at different rates of oscillation and frequency. So all of us are made of the same thing, and all things are made of the same thing. We're just vibrating at different vibrational frequencies. So that's what makes us look and sound and act different, and even exist in different layers of life, if you will. But to be honest, what quantum science teaches us and what I have come to find for myself is that uh, everything is connected by this energy. And this consciousness is intelligent. It is what connects all things, and it is what creates all things. It also is what changes the form of all things. And that comes from our desires, our actions, our repeated thoughts, if you will. So, the reason why we called it the Quantum Dojo, though, is because um, some of you may or may not know this about me, but I used to be um, quite active in the martial arts as well as a lifelong yoga teacher and yogi, and it was part of my daily practice. Some of it still is part of my daily practice, although I did take a vow of nonviolence, ahimsa, back in 2001, so I don't um, normally, teach regular martial arts classes. I don't compete anymore. I don't write books about it or classes or excuse me, magazine articles or anything like that. But because I didn't like that people were identifying with the violence part of, or the aggression, the fighting part of it. For me, the martial arts, especially the Japanese arts, were about fighting without fighting, learning how to get a handle on that internal part of ourselves that wants to control or overcome or, you know, overpower things. Fighting without fighting makes us all what we would call the peaceful warrior. The peaceful warrior comes into life as a purposeful being to help other beings attain enlightenment as well as their own enlightenment. So that's what this is about. The dojo, for those of you who don't know what the word dojo is, it, it, the Western meaning is, training hall, place where you practice martial arts. But dojo literally in Japanese means the place of the way. And I'm here today and in the coming months, the coming years, even I hope, because this is going to be an ongoing virtual academy, basically, of psi science and the science of consciousness. Um, this is going to be the way to teach you how to connect to or reconnect to and develop all of your superpowers, if you will, your gifts. We all have them, but we have come here in this particular dimension and frequency at this time, um, self veiled, if you will, from most of those gifts so that we can have a valid experience of separation, of uh, trying to figure things out as babies, I guess, and just to have that experience. It's just, consciousness likes to explore different aspects um, and opportunities of life, and this is one of them. However, most of us who have lived in this dimension, this frequency, for many, many, many incarnations, for many millennia, some of us, we've pretty much eked out all of the learning we're going to have from this experience, if you will. And we long for something more. I hear a lot of my students and clients say, I just long for home. I want to go home, or I want something better. I don't like the world the way it is. And it's pretty crazy right now, obviously. But it's pretty crazy right now because most of us are tired of that groundhog hog day type of existence where we just keep reincarnating. And most of us have learned most of the lessons that we came here to learn and experience, and we're ready to move on to a more conscious, self empowered, creative, and harmonious life, which is really what most of the cosmos is like. This is a very special school for the soul. And so we had set up some very strong parameters for controls here, such as duality. Duality. And because of duality, everything is separate. It gives the impression of being separate, of being alienated, and we're not. We are all by way of quantum entanglement. For those of you who understand quantum physics, even on a lay level, quantum entanglement is just the concept that everything is connected and um, informs everything else by way of, you know, energetic interaction. There is no time in the quantum universe, really. There is no space in the quantum universe. There's only here and now. And I believe it was Carl Jung who said the number of minds in the universe is one. There's only you and the reflections of yourself in the creation of the different facets of your personality that you are looking at via the lens of your past experiences in this particular realm. So that is that's why there's so much chaos right now. That's why there's so much strife. A lot of people are very unhappy. They're very agitated. They may be angry. They may be even, trying to gain some kind of control or power over others because they just feel lost. That's all it is. You look around and see any person who has the need to control others, who is a bully, for instance, and they always have an issue of low self esteem or feeling out of control or a lack of control. And they just don't feel safe. They may not admit to that, but that is usually the case. So, what we're here to do today and in the upcoming classes, and at least in these first two classes, which are the subject of connecting to quantum consciousness, is explore how all of this is connected and how we can access the information, because all information is accessible to us. We just have to remember how. So that's my job, to help you um, understand, define, reconnect to these things, practice them, and redevelop them or develop them, enhance them more than you're used to. Um, so that might be anything from just going into deep meditation and accessing the information from the quantum universe, or from the cosmic mind, or it might be developing a skill such as remote viewing or out of body experience, or energy healing, um, upgrading your own DNA, communicating, contacting, initiating contact with extraterrestrial or interdimensional or celestial beings. You know, um, back in the day, we had all these different definitions of the different beings that people would be reporting having contact with. Okay, I'm here to tell you myself, from my personal experience, I don't know that there is a line that we have to draw to define these things, because what I've been told and what I truly believe is they are all aspects of ourselves. They're just different frequencies. They're on different dimensional planes, and so and they come across um, when we do have contact with them. For instance, spirits, angels, saints, ascended masters, um, extraterrestrials, light beings, orbs, those kind of things come across in different manifestations in our physical plane, so that we can interact with them and understand them in a much easier way than if they came in a form that our human brain couldn't comprehend. So we'll get into more of that later. But yeah, we're going to be having classes on connecting to and enhancing your telepathic skills, or what I call telepathy, because quantum telepathy, basically, the collective form of telepathy isn't just reading minds. It is actually taking on all the information, not of another being, and having that communion with them, not just words, not just thoughts, it's feelings, it's experiences. You get everything in a packet. Okay, so we call it quantum telepathy. Channeling, it's just tapping into another version of yourself, whether that would be an ancestor, or um, a wise teacher from another dimension, or um, someone from the past or the future. You know, I still believe it's still you. It's just a different version of you living on a different frequency. And you're able to tap into that and bring through that information, um, because you're resonant in some way with it. So, why we see people who are able to do this now, um, where we didn't see very many of them even like 25, 30 years ago, it's because most of us have raised our vibration enough, have increased our spiritual um, enhancement, if you will, and we have the desire now. We are now open to that kind of thing. We're not afraid anymore of these things. And so it's much easier to access that. But to be clear, all of these things are part and parcel of the same thing, which is quantum consciousness. They're just different ways of expressing it. Okay, so um, there's so much that we're going to be learning, but these first two classes, each month has a different subject, and they're two classes a month. This first month's classes are just talking about the overall picture of quantum consciousness. And we are going to practice, including today, how to access that, at least for a little bit, and at least have a sip of what I call the little drop of nectar. When you are able to make that connection, there is so much love and so much beauty and so much peace and so much joy that comes into you, if even for a split second, that it is incredibly, hate to use the word, but it's addictive. It is. It makes you want to keep coming back more and more and more, where um, you just keep adding on to the the depth of it all. You keep enjoying more and more your practice. It doesn't seem like a chore, for one thing, most days, but it's something that you jump out of bed for. Okay, so I hope that you will enjoy these classes, and I hope that you'll enjoy the practice and the homework, because there is homework. We want you to practice in between the classes so that you can get really proficient at it, so you can move to the next level and the next subject. So we called this virtual academy the Quantum Dojo, and to go along with that, I'm calling the students Quantum Samurai. What were the samurai? Well, samurai, again, in Western culture, we seem to see the surface of things, especially as passed down through history, and all we see are these guys, although there were women samurai too, but you hardly ever hear about them. They were very prolific back in the day in Japan, but the samurai were a group of honorable, the highest sense of honorable um, people who were highly skilled in the martial arts, especially in swordplay and in the fighting arts. But they were the most skilled besides regular. In fact, they many of them were monks, but they were the most skilled besides the monks who didn't go on to be samurai at meditation and at their spiritual practice. They had to be, because to be as proficient as they were in what they did, they had to connect to quantum consciousness. They had to be in what we call the flow state. For instance, if you've ever watched um, a movie, for instance, of someone doing sword work like a samurai, it's almost like they aren't thinking. They're absolutely moving in a flow state through their movements, and they're able to um, react or respond to their opponent or to whatever they're doing without thinking. Why is that? Well, because when you're in that state, when you're in the flow state, you are completely linked in to the quantum mind, the cosmic mind, and it's like being on autopilot. It's a very pleasant state to be in, and I'm sure you've been in that state before. Maybe when you've been dancing or playing music or painting or creating something. It's often a very creative pursuit when you feel this state, and suddenly you realize, wow, I didn't have to think about that. We think of musicians, and we see them up there on the stage, and they're performing and they're smiling and they're doing all these antics and everything, and yet they're playing incredible music on their instrument while they're doing that. Well, how do they do it? They're linked into quantum consciousness. So their bodies, because of their practice, that's very important. Know that you have to do the work physically and mentally, but because of their practice, they were able to let go and feel that joy, that love, that high vibrational state of gratitude while they're performing. And the body absolutely gets in a state of flow with the heart and the mind. And what that does is it brings it all together, and you become one giant radio antenna, if you will, to the quantum mind, to quantum consciousness. Wow, the picture looks a lot better when I do this. It's because I have a window over here and it's bright light coming in. So I apologize. But anyway, that's the concept. So anybody can do it, everybody can do it. I promise. It is who we are. It is embedded in our, it's encoded in our DNA to be able to do this and um, uh, to also continue to develop and enhance it even here on earth as human beings. So just, to go into it a little further, um, quantum consciousness helps us to, it doesn't leave us out here in the school by ourselves. Okay, we have a fail safe built into this program. This program of coming to the Earth School and being in these science experiments that have pretty much at this point turned into um, either beautiful or horrible experiments. Okay, so a lot of people ask me why then, if we're so highly developed, if we're so divine, why did we create this place that is so messed up right now? Our world 2020, it's the craziest thing you've ever seen. It's chaotic, it's vile, it's all this stuff. On the other end of the spectrum, some people are really experiencing the most beautiful things, the most deeply joyful things they've ever experienced. Well, why is that? Why is that? It's because of the duality nature of this school that we built. Okay. Um, the two main precepts, the two main constructs of third dimensional Earth life in this timeline are duality, the concept of duality, and karmic patterning. Duality helps us to look at things from the pros and the cons, and it makes us feel separate from, alienated from. We have forgotten that we are all one and that we're just different facets of the same thing. Karma, karmic patterning, is the mechanism that keeps us coming back into the lab to perform more experiments. We learn something in one life, we leave our vessel, we come back in another one, another space suit, I like to call it, and we get, or hazmat suit in this case, and we come back into the science lab and we do some more experimentation with other variables, with other concepts, with other people. So that's what that's all about. But because of this, we have become so attached to the school that we forgot it's just a school. Basically, it's a room in a school. It's just one part of our existence, and it's a very, very minute part. But we have become so focused on it that we think that's all there is, and it's not true. Most of the cosmos, most of life, I call it the infiniverse or the divine infiniverse. It's not even a multiverse, it's an infinite amount of universes put together. Most of the beings who exist in the infiniverse live in peace, joy, harmony, creativity, and they're just doing it in different forms and different rates of frequency, and still exploring, still learning, but it's much more elegant and less irritating, annoying, and painful way. And so just know this is just a tiny little room in the huge school for the soul, basically. So, but we got so attached to what we were doing because there is a lot to enjoy here as well. Think of all the things that you enjoy in life. Think of why people cling to life. It's inherent in the human 3D human being to literally fight for life, and that's okay. But when you continue to focus on everything that's here and you neglect to focus on the rest of your being, which is, again, quantum consciousness, which is the divine mind, the big you, I like to call it my big, um, when you don't at least take a look at that every once in a while, then you think that this is all there is, and then it becomes kind of scary because you don't want to let it go. What's out there after this, we don't, a lot of us don't, we're not sure. Our culture tells us what to believe, our religions tell us what to believe, but internally we have forgotten that life goes on. Life is beautiful celebration all over the place, and that we are never separate from it. It never stops. That this is just one tiny piece. So let me go back for a second and talk just a little bit about the quantum science for those of you who are not real familiar with it, or who only have a rudimentary understanding. For those of you who have studied it and know a little bit about it, you can fast forward if you want, or maybe you'll get another nugget of information if you listen. But for one of another, a better explanation, the quantum universe or the infiniverse is it's infinite. Okay, there's not just one, and there's not just one universe. There are infinite universes, and in every one of those universes, there's at least one more version of you. And all of those billions and trillions of yous out there, in there, all around, are all living either similar but slightly different experiences. So you're gaining learning from all of that, or vastly different experiences. And when you're through with playing with this one, you go back, you absorb in, and you download that information into what I call the big computer, the mainframe, the CPU of the divine infiniverse of quantum consciousness, wherein you are just the little flash drive that can only hold so much information. That's why it's tough for you to sometimes understand the concept that you are everything, and that there are an infinite number of yous out there to make a connection with, to gain information from. There are an infinite number of universes to explore. There are an infinite number of opportunities to grow and to love and to have interest in. We literally have forgotten that we live a perfect existence because we're like workaholic scientists. We are stuck leaning over our microscope when our beloved is tugging at the sleeve of our lab coat saying, please come outside and look at the sunset for once. No, I don't want to. I'm looking at this microbe. Okay. And pretty soon the beloved just gives up, walks away, and you're not even aware that they left you. But um, so because all these infinite versions of you and of the universes, the information continues to evolve. Now, why is that? Well, here's another concept. Every time you make a choice between one or between two or more things, I always use this little example. So, longtime students, forgive me, but you know what's coming. You're hungry and you want a snack, and there's a Twinkie and there's an apple. And let's say that you choose the apple because you know it's healthier, and you're eating the apple, and you go on about this existence having eaten that apple, and having made that choice, you move through your life slightly changed or enhanced, or you've learned something, because food is information, everything's information, and you've literally engaged in communicating with information by eating that apple. What happened to the person who didn't make that choice, because every time you make a choice, you create another you create another universe. Well, the person who didn't choose the apple, obviously chose the Twinkie, is off having their own life now. And their life has been impacted by eating that Twinkie, probably in a totally different way. And they are living their life in another universe, in another frequency. Neither is good or bad. It's just part of life. It's just different iterations of life. So, in the years, we're talking about chronological time here in the third dimensional earth life, in the years that you have existed in this particular vessel, body, spacesuit, on this planet, in this timeline, my bet is you've made millions, if not billions, of decisions, because you do every second of your day, either consciously or subconsciously. You may not be consciously choosing to take another breath, but you're subconsciously choosing to take another breath. And somewhere you've created another universe where you chose not to take any more breaths. And so you passed out of that body and you're off doing something else. That's another universe. That's another you. It's kind of mind boggling, but it's true. Science is starting to prove this. And of course, the ancients, the yogis, the mystics, the monks, um, the philosophers, many of them have been saying this for eons, that there's not just one you, there are infinite numbers of you, and they're all part of the same thing. And everybody that you see around you are all part of the same thing. And we're all just having an experience together to learn and to expand. In the original version of this class where I was giving this lecture, one of the students asked, well, if that's so, and we eventually download everything that we experienced as recorders of every experience that we are, when we let go of this incarnation, we go and download or upload the information that we gained here into the quantum consciousness computer or the cosmic mind. Well, if we keep doing that, then if it's already the cosmic mind, doesn't it already know everything? And I said, yes, but it's also smart enough to know that if it knows everything, then what's the point? You're going to get bored at some point and you need something else. And so I believe that cosmic mind, the quantum consciousness of the universe, left open a trap door for constant evolution, for constant growth, for constant creation. And so the more we experience and then upload into that collective, the more universes and versions of us there are to explore. And on and on and on and on and on. It's like a hall of mirrors. If you've ever been in a hall of mirrors, like in a haunted house or an amusement park, it's like you see off into infinity, because the mirrors keep reflecting off of each other and creating more and more reflections of mirrors reflecting of mirrors of mirrors reflecting of mirrors into infinity. That's what quantum consciousness is like, and that's what we are. And so I think it's a wonderful thing to be able to tap into all that and cherry pick information that we want, to choose the different aspects of maybe the higher level versions of ourselves to bring back into this version to upgrade it right now. There are no big rules for this. I mean, it's open-ended, the school for the soul. you know, if it, if you want to be extremely psychic, well, you already are. You just need to know how to turn that switch on. So that's what this is about. So that also leaves us with the ultimate responsibility. If you have all the gifts in the divine infiniverse, if you are yourself, the cosmic mind, doesn't that bear responsibility for being conscious all the time of your actions, your words, your thoughts, your feelings? Because once you really get this concept, you understand that everything you do affects everything else, even if you're doing it subconsciously. And I dare say most of the stuff that we do, at least during our waking hours, is we're unconscious of, because we're moving through our day pretty much in a routine way. You think about your day, you're doing things pretty much the same way unless you make a conscious effort to do something different, to make a conscious choice to do something different. That's why people become addicted to things or situations. That's why habits form. And it's not good or bad, it just is. It's just, what do you choose to experience next? Well, if you like how your life is going and you like how the world is, by all means, keep doing everything the way you do it. If you don't, you might want to dissect that. You might want to journal a little bit about it, track it a little bit, and ask yourself, where can I tweak this? One of my great teachers is Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks about how most people wake up in the morning and the first thing they do is turn their phone or computer on, and they start looking at their emails, they look at their Snapchat, they look at their Facebook, and immediately they get pinned back into this reality that is pretty much the same thing that happened yesterday with just a few different variables. Mostly stuff that you don't want to see, especially right now. And then they get up, they might get cleaned up, brush your teeth, take your shower, slug down a cup or two of coffee on the way to work, get mad in traffic, um, you know, trek into the office or sign on, for those of you who work at home now, sign on to your computer, and you start doing the same activities you did the day before and the day before and the day before and the day before. And you keep etching into your energetic recorder, which is your energy field, your chakra system. You keep etching these grooves of information. This is how we do this. This is how we do this. This is how we do this. And your recording system does nothing but record it. And then you wake up the next morning and you punch play and it plays the program again. Well, people want to know, well, why can't I lose this 50 pounds that I gained? Or why can't I stop drinking alcohol? Or why am I so angry? Why can't I be happy like other people? Why can't I see the good? It's because you have practiced for a long time, mostly unconsciously, the activities that have brought you this scenario in the science lab. So at first, it might take a lot of effort to overwrite those programs, but it's really worth it because you have all of this other information in the infiniverse to pull from. You have just as much, dare I say, you have just as much ability to have a happy, healthy, joyful, magical life as you do a crappy one. And we are totally 100% responsible for that. Part of the programming that we go through is also blaming other people for why we're experiencing what we're experiencing. Well, think about this. If you have a coworker that really annoys you, and every day you wake up in the morning thinking about, oh my God, I don't want to go in there and see this guy because he's just an asshole and he is going to ruin my day because he ruined my day yesterday and the day before yesterday and last year and 10 years ago, and he is really beating me down. Well, what you've done is you have written a program for yourself about who that guy is. And remember, there are infinite possibilities of everything. And you can pull them into this life reality, this life focus, but you have to consciously change it in your part of the quantum field, your immediate field, which is the template for this spacesuit that you're wearing. You know, many years ago when I was uh, studying energy healing and so forth, I came in with healing abilities, but I didn't have an explanation for it. So I started taking courses and studying and getting explanations, scientific explanations of it. What we know now, they used to have handouts and show a human body with the chakras, the energy centers that go up, the main ones that go up the spine or in line with the spine, and they all have different abilities and affect different parts of your life. And then as they spin, they create this field of energy that goes out between 3 and 6 feet, about the width of your outstretched arms, depending on how high your vibration is. That energetic field is a mass recorder. It records everything that you experience, even if you're not aware of what you're experiencing. Um, and we can tap into that like with quantum hypnosis, for instance. It is a recording system, and it is what you upload into the cosmic mind when you go back to report in after you leave this spacesuit. So but yeah, the handouts back then, the books back then, used to show the human body with the chakric system and the energy field, and they would say, the energy field emanates from the body, but that's not true. Even ancient wisdom, even the ancient mystery schools and the yogis knew this eons ago. The energy field is what creates, it's the template for this body. So what you carry around in that energy field is what crystallizes into this physical manifestation: body, mind, emotions, um, heart. So there's that. Let's see, where was I going with that though? The So you have this recording system, and it literally records everything that you do consciously or unconsciously, and it affects everything in creation, whether you're conscious of that or not. So part of overriding these negative programs that you have, these deeply etched grooves, the yogis call them samskaras, of habitual, not just habitual activities like drinking too much alcohol every day, but habitual feeling states like hating your coworker. Most of these are subconscious and unconscious programs that you have written yourself because of the experiences you've had. And it's easier to just follow the program rather than to alter or overwrite that program with something better. But it can be done. And that's what this program is about as well. So the point is, if you get up every morning and the first thought that you feel is, I got to go back in there and deal with that guy, then immediately you're pinned back to that reality where that particular version of that guy lives. Does that make sense? So the way we use this technology that I'm getting ready to help teach you is we do certain practices that help us open up our internal, in that chakra system. There is an internal, what I call the internal radio antenna, the big giant antenna that opens up and connects with, uplinks with the quantum consciousness, the cosmic mind. And you literally can receive information from any one of those infinite other versions of life that you exist in. And I dare say most of them do not include that guy at all. Or if they do, there's a different version of him and a different version of you, and you get along. And what's really cool is you don't have to go searching for it. You just do some of the practices, the simple practices that we're going to get into here soon, and you get into a quiet state and you open up, you turn the switch on. It's like turning your radio on, and it comes on the right preset. It comes on the right station, your favorite station. Or let's go into a better example. You turn your radio on, or you turn your stereo system on, and it's linked up to your whole music library, okay? And it goes directly to your favorite song, or the song that's going to be the most effective and make you feel the best in that moment. That's what this is about. And so the way we do this is we stop running the same programs all the time, and we become more and more consciously self-aware. You know, I'm a lifelong yogi, and so yogis believe that the biggest purpose of their practice is to become conscious in all moments of life, including sleep. That's where our dream and symbols class are going to come into. Because what we're practicing for is the ultimate choice of a physical human being, and that is to choose whether to come back here or not and continue on with the science experiment, or to choose what we want to do next. And until you are able to do that, you will continue to come back here. You know, you still have a choice, but it's kind of an unconscious choice. It's like waking up every morning hating the guy that you don't want to see at work. Okay, so what existence do you want? Do you want to have full conscious power of what you do next, and how you create what you create, how you're going to make the world a better place, and how you're going to make your own life a better life? Or do you want to just throw the dice and let it all happen by so-called happenstance? It's not happenstance. It's all according to the program that you are working. So my bet is most of you, all of you who are here, because you're not here by accident, want to tap into these programs, want to tap into these abilities and become more conscious and become more of that being that you want to be on these, that you are being on these other levels now. This timeline, this dimension, this place where you exist, it's always going to exist, but you don't have to be focused on it anymore. You can focus on one that's very similar, but that's a lot more pleasing, where you're having a lot more fun, where you're getting a lot more enlightenment, where you're creating more joy, where you're feeling more loved, where you're, you know, maybe you don't even want to be physical anymore. Maybe you want to experience being a light being, or, you know, being a wave of energy. You can tap into that with these things. But a lot of the gifts that we're going to be exploring are a little bit lower than that, but still tapping into that quantum consciousness so that you can really have a great existence here. Telepathy, healing, um, the ability to work with other people via meeting with them in another frequency, out of body experiences, astral travel, activating your pineal gland so that you are more conscious, so that you are aware, you know, um, your psychic gifts, being able to do automatic writing or automatic drawing, you know, really hacking your creativity system, virtually anything. It's all open ended. And I am very honored to be able to help you with this. I don't have all the answers in this particular incarnation, but I do have the ability to tap into it. And I am barely scratching the surface myself, but I have been encouraged and I really have the deep desire to share what I've learned with you as I continue to explore in this spacesuit myself. So, with that, I thank you for joining this program. I thank you for doing the practice, for interacting with the students in the JoJo here, the Quantum Samurai. You are unlimited and infinite. You have infinite potential. You have unlimited capability. And I'm very honored and humbled and very pleased to help you find your way on that journey, on that path. And so, with that, I say, Tomono arigato. Thank you. And at this point in the program, we took a little break, and you can take a little break if you need to. And then we'll go right into the first set of practices in the second recording. Thank you so much. Namaste.